how to clean stalls. I know it's not rocket science, but maybe some of the things I'll show you today might help some of y'all out. And if so, great. Everyone has a different situation. I'm just going to work with the situation that I have. The stalls that I have are just mildly dirty because I did clean them this morning and did not have horses in them all day. So this will go rather quickly. When you clean a stall, I usually work with just a regular pick and make sure it has all its tines, or it could be very frustrating. And I've got a muck bucket and a little rolly cart. Now some people with bigger barns might have the manure spreaders or something they might drive a tractor through. It's still helpful to have at least the muck bucket that you can pick up and throw in the back of the manure spreader as you go. Plus these are things that you can easily put inside the stall if a horse is in there while you clean the stall without running into problems. So I'm going to clean a few different stalls and show you what I do. So our stalls, number one, we leveled our stalls and put rubber mats in all of them. And the rubber mats are great because it means that you can use fewer shavings, and also keeps the manure, the urine is less of a problem when you have rubber mats, and you also don't get the big holes if you have horses that paw. So I highly recommend, if you don't already have rubber mats, to level your stalls out. Then you can put a layer of road base or something that you can tamp down really nicely, and then put on your rubber floor mats, and you'll have really nice stalls that'll last you for years. So this stall, again, not very dirty. What I normally do is I clean in the morning, turn my horses out, and then when I bring them in, I have clean stalls. Now this stall doesn't have a whole lot of shavings, but one thing you'll see is, we do have the urine mess, and I'll take some of the shavings to soak up the urine so that I can put it in here. Now if a horse is in the stall, I would just work around them, being careful not to pop them in the face with the back of my stick. I don't use a whole lot of bedding in most of my stalls because I know which horses lay down and which ones don't, and they're not in for very long. But for one of my horses, I do put a lot more in, and we'll talk about the reasons why. Just realize the more bedding you have in the stall, it does keep it cleaner, but you also have a lot more waste when you clean the stall and throw it away. So it depends if you have a big poop pile, or if you're throwing it away in a dumpster, how many shavings you really want to deal with. And I just use regular wood shavings, nice pine shavings. I'm not a big fan of the newspaper, so pine shavings are my preference. Now, whenever I have urine in a stall, after I clean it, I take a powder. I use sweet PDZ. Okay, so I usually use the powder form of sweet PDZ. It comes in granules, but I don't like anything that could be edible for horses that they might accidentally ingest. So I just, after I've cleaned the urine spots, I spray powder, and what this does is it neutralizes the ammonia so that you don't have a stinky barn. Now I need a little bit more. And if it's really still wet, I might just leave it exposed for the day to dry before covering it with shavings. Otherwise, I'm just going to have a wet spot of shavings sitting on top of them. So I'll probably just leave it like that for it to dry, and then cover it with some shavings, and we're good to go. So that stall is actually good for right now for that particular horse. Now, some reasons that you might want to have a lot of shavings in a stall are for horses that lay down a lot. They can get sores, hock sores especially, if they're laying down a lot in a stall that doesn't have much bedding. And usually those sores are on their back hock. I'll show you when we get to a pony. On the outside of each one of their hocks. That's usually from laying on stalls with not a lot of bedding. But like I said, my horses are not in for a long, long time. So I go easy on the bedding. I can go rather quickly when I don't have, obviously, very dirty stalls. Now I do try to shake out the clean shavings so I have as little waste as possible, and Not to mention shavings are expensive, so I hate to have to throw away a lot of nice shavings. This one again is going to need the sweet PDZ. Whenever I'm in my stalls cleaning, I always check their waters as well. Now, I don't have automatic waterers, I just have water buckets, and mine are actually heated water buckets. It's winter time here. But I'll look at them, and I usually clean them once a week. I just empty them out, and I'll take a paper towels or fruit clean towels, and I wipe out the inside of the bucket, because otherwise they start smelling like a fish tank, and the horses won't drink out of it. Also, if they're clean, and I'm in here cleaning, if I see hay in the water, I'll just scoop the hay out, because that'll help keep the water cleaner longer. But like I said, I usually clean them once a week, and that's always good. I'm just going to leave them to dry, because that horse isn't going to come back in tonight. One thing also, when you're cleaning in the morning, if you have a regular schedule, which I'm sure you do, you'll get to know your horses, and that's a time to pay attention to, hey, is my horse pooping normally? A lot of horses will poop, they'll have a good 4 or 5 poops a night, depending on what time you bring them in and what time you get up to do chores. Could be less, could be more, depending on how long they're in. But if you come in and see, this horse usually has 4 or 5 poops and I only see 1, well, that's an indication that maybe there's something going on, maybe they're getting a tummy ache, maybe you should watch them. Some horses have off days, but not often without it being like a little colic or something. So keeping an eye on the poops and urine is really important, and also seeing, are they drinking enough, especially when you have wild changes in weather, where one day it's 0 degrees and then 2 days later you're back up into the 50s. That can be hard on their system, and you get a lot of colics when the weather's fluctuating a lot. When we have that, I always try to bring all my horses in at night to level out the differences in cold, so that it's not so dramatic on them. The other thing I do, when you have stalls with outside runs, of course I clean those as well. And if there's snowpack and your poops are frozen, you might have to take a shovel instead of a pick, so you can actually get the frozen poop out. Same thing if the urine freezes, if you don't have enough shavings, you might have to dig to scrape up the frozen urine. So I have heated water buckets in the wintertime on each individual stall, and I unplug them as much as possible because they're very expensive to run, and you also don't want to run them when they're empty, because it'll probably burn out your bucket. Now what I do, I'm fortunate enough in my setup that I have a dumpster outside my barn, so I'm able to haul away everything I clean out of the stalls. So I'm very lucky that way. I know other people have similar setups. Even some of the larger barns might have like a trailer bed set up that they dump the poo in and then they haul it away. So I got one more stall. This is the one that has more bedding. Now, when you bed your stalls and you're putting down shavings, you might want to think about whether they're geldings or mares, because the geldings obviously are going to urinate more in the middle of the stall, and the mares are going to urinate more on the outside. So that'll help you decide how you want to throw your shavings. I don't put a whole gob in the middle because I don't want a horse like the geldings to urinate on a big old pile and I have to throw it all away the next day. So I might go just a little bit thinner where I know they're going to urinate enough to soak it up, but not so much that I have to throw away such huge amounts of shavings. I also try to go up on the edges, because then as I clean each day, after I take out the mess, I can scrape some more clean shavings from the sides, and I don't have to bring bags of shavings in quite so often. So this run is starting to thaw. You can see we got a lot of snow. And so I will scrape up everything I can to keep it clean. Now when you have a lot of snow mixed in, you can see this is going to break the tines if I try to use that. So I'll show you a little trick. pretty mucky here. Sometimes you have to wait for just everything to thaw before you can actually clean it up. So we've had a little bit of a meltdown today. Good muck boots are essential for this. I'm going to try at a different angle to see if I can get this. Obviously there's ice. Sometimes you can use, if you don't have a shovel with you, you can use your keel and see if you can break it loose. But that's just too solid, so I'm just going to scrape off the top what I can. I always check my outside buckets. They're heated as well to make sure they're full and not frozen over. I check them morning and night. We also check for dead animals because surprisingly we've had birds and other animals that appear every now and then inside a water tank. And when that happens, we have to dump the whole thing out, clean it out, and refill it because you don't want any of that stuff getting in your horse's system. So, oops, I've got one more over here. When you're scrimping in when you're scraping up your manure in snow, try not to scoop up too much snow because it'll make your bucket really heavy. And you can always use your foot to help out as well. Okay. As a part of cleaning as well, after I clean, when you clean your stalls, normally I always get pretty dirty, either from feed and manure, and also when you leave your horses in and out, their feet empty out in your aisleways. And I try to sweep as often as possible. Daily is best. And by keeping your barn swept, you'll also reduce rodents because they won't have bedding or feed to come in. And I also make sure that I don't leave anything where birds are going to fly in and start eating as well and making messes in the barn. So, yep, so that's really it for stall cleaning. I'm sure everybody has their own way, but if this helped anyone out, that's great. Doesn't take a whole lot of effort, but it is a great way to keep an eye on the well-being of your horses because you're seeing their bathroom habits, their drinking habits, their eating habits, make sure they're eating. If you have a clean, well-bedded stall for your horse every night, their feet will be better and they'll be healthier overall. So that's it for cleaning stalls, and happy riding.